Yeah, I think we're good to go.
All right, great. Well, everybody out there that doesn't know me, I am Shannon Landers, VP of Sales and Marketing here at WOW. And we are really excited to bring you this webinar today, kind of part two maybe of a series that we started a couple weeks ago. And this was asked for from that first webinar that we did on kind of social media branding. So happy to have Todd here, our owner, so I'll kind of pass it to him.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. Welcome, everybody. It's so just great to have you here, and we are adapting to this new style, and we wanted to create these webinars to bring more value and content to you guys. And we love just hanging out with you guys. We haven't been able to get out, haven't been able to see you guys in the office, so we wanted to create these as value to you guys and really take questions and put together webinars. I have a fantastic team. I have a team that knows an infinite amount. Literally, we did a pre-roll and then we did a pre-roll this morning, and they're explaining this stuff to me like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, how do you? And they're explaining these things to me. So we're going to have all levels on the webinar today, guys. So if you have a question, feel free to use the question window. If we will stop and answer questions, we'll have a Q&A at the end. We'll try to keep this, the main PowerPoint portion a 25-ish minutes presentation, and then give time for questions at the end. We do have a great handout that at the end as well that we'll put, or maybe it's in the notes right now. But I wanted to also introduce Steve Musser. He is our director of social media. He's literally the mad wizard of social media. He just speaks social media. I mean, there's just like, there's people that if they program, they speak binary or whatever they may, binary, hexadecimal. Steve speaks social media. And we wanted to put this together today because we know a lot of you are starting to spend money and a good amount of money on social media. And there's a right way to do it, and then there's a not so efficient way. So we wanted to give you all the tips and tricks that we had. And Steve is really the central hub to that. He leads the team here. Steve, I'm going to kick it off to you to go ahead and take it away.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. For those that weren't part of the last set of webinars, my name's Steve Musser, so Director of Social Media for WOW Video Tours. And last time we talked about kind of the organic approach, just getting your social media squared away, getting that organic content out there so your timeline is full, it's providing value to your followers, and you're attracting the right people and keeping them there. So today, per request, we're kind of digging deeper into Facebook ads, and we want to talk a little bit, really kick it off here with what the day is going to be about. So we're going to kind of compare Boost versus the ad manager. What's the difference? That was a question we got a lot of, and so some of you may be familiar with Boost, but you've never dug into the full ad manager. So we'll address that for you, kind of tell you what the difference is between the two. Really also help you get set up with your marketing funnel. So if that's something you haven't thought about before, we'll give you some great pointers today on how to get that set up and the best way to do that. And then retargeting and custom audiences. So those two go to hand in hand together. So we'll kind of address those, give you an overview of what it is and a little bit of how to use that. And then at the end, we'll kind of conclude with an example scenario of a campaign that you can start right away. So to kind of give you a real life example of how to use this. So that's kind of the plan for today. I know we talked about questions. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or put them in the Q&A. We'll try to address those at the end of each slide if we can. We can't dig into exact detail step by step, of course, but like Todd and Shannon said, we're more than welcome to schedule follow-ups and do one-on-ones as needed, and we'll make sure we get those answered for you. So I'm going to kind of kick off here with Boost versus Ad Manager. That's a big area of confusion for a lot of people. So if you don't know what the difference between the two is, you'll see this a lot for your posts. So if you post something organically to your timeline, you see the button that says Boost. You can click that button. A sub menu pops up to where you have some options to change a few things, and then you can make that Boost live. And we'll kind of explain what that is. For the ones that dig into the ad manager, you'll actually go into the ad manager and there's a lot more settings to deal with. But there was some confusion on what those are and where they come from. So I wanted to kind of give a breakdown here of the difference between those two. So in a nutshell, a Boost, you're taking an existing posting that's on your timeline and you're telling Facebook to show it to as many people as possible for this amount of budget. So think of that as your brand awareness, getting something out there. It's not really targeting down to a certain audience per se. It's just getting it to, maybe a geographical, 15-mile radius or so, but you're going to show it to as many people as possible or get as many messages as possible and try to get that brand awareness out there. And that's what a lot of people do. And there's a much, much bigger side. So when you compare the two columns here with the ad manager, when you dig into ad manager, it's giving you all these extra features that you see in the right-hand column. So outside of the basic objective, the target audience and budget, one big thing with ad manager is placement. So you can actually determine where that ad shows up at. So you can determine, do you want it to show up in Instagram? Do you want it to play a video in between another video? So an in-stream video, when someone's watching it will pop up and play that video for them. So all those different placements, you can determine where you want that to be and how it shows up. And that's something you can dig a lot deeper into with Ad Manager than what you can do with Boost. The custom audience, we'll dig into that a little bit later, but that's something that you don't get an option to do as far as creating a custom audience through Boost. So we'll explain a little bit more what that is. Same with lookalike audience. Ad scheduling is another feature there with Ad Manager that you get. And essentially what that is if you boost a post, it's going to show that post to as many people as possible from this date to that date. And that's just kind of all the parameters that you're allowed to set in that example. With Ad Manager, ad scheduling, you can say, I want to show it, to this target group of people from this date to this date, but then you can go an extra level and say, I want to show it to people between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. So you can have a little bit more control of when that shows up as far as the time and day. And then creative control is a lot more. So instead of using an existing post to boost it out there, Ad Manager lets you create an actual ad. And so you can do a lot more. So you'll see them out there. You see them every day in your timelines. You can do, the carousel ads, video ads. You can add buttons to direct them to a website or to sign up for an email list or any number of things. And that's what you can do with Ad Manager versus Boost. So it's just kind of an overview. I know it's not all inclusive. There's so many questions, along that lines as far as, we could spend all day talking just about those two things, but we did want to kind of give you an overview of what each is and kind of the difference, what you're getting with Ad Manager versus Boost. So in a nutshell, I would just say Boost is a good opportunity in rare occasions where you're just trying to get it out to as many people as possible. Ad Manager is when you actually want to use your funnel and get it to the right people so you know who's seeing it and you're getting it to the people that are most likely to respond to that ad.
So Steve, is it, I want to make sure I'm hearing you correctly. Is it safe to say that using the Ad Manager is a better spend of my money over a Boost?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you have complete control over it at that point. So it's a big difference. Think of Boost being, putting up a billboard so you can just get as many people to see it as possible. And you're not targeting down that audience by any means. Mm-hmm. Whereas Ad Manager, you're getting it to the right demographic, the right people, the right time, and the right way to display it. So you're getting to control all those different things. So there are some occasions where Boost, is great, don't get me wrong, but in most cases, you'll want to use Ad Manager if you're wanting to have more in-depth control of what you're doing.
Great, great.
Oh, go ahead, Todd.
No, I was just going to say, and I think a lot of you, it comes down to time. I know that's what it comes down to, and a lot of you are thinking that Boost is quicker. I think once you do the Ad Manager a couple of times, you define some of these audiences, and we'll talk about that. I think you'll see that it's not a time saver, and it's really a specific tool to target individuals who are ready or who should be towards the bottom of your funnel.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I feel like if we equate just to reach and engagement, so two other terms in Facebook, Boost is kind of equal to reach, where Ad Manager is kind of equal to engagement. Steve, would you kind of agree with that?
Yeah, it's a good way to word it. Because, when you think of what reach is, it's just how many sets of eyes have the potential to see it. Whereas engagement is how many people are actually interacting in some way. So it's a good way to word that, because you're really focusing on getting it to the people that are at a phase where they're more likely to engage versus, just opening a fire hose and hoping, people come to it.
Yeah, and the other thing is with a boost, Facebook really controls that money spend, where with an ad, you're controlling it more. So that's the other thing to think about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good way. And like I said, there's probably, a good couple hours we could talk about this and all the intricacies that go with each one. But I think that's a good rundown of kind of the difference between the two. If anybody has any questions, I mean, don't hesitate to throw them out there. But that was a common question we got. So we at least wanted to address that for you, give you a little bit better idea of what the difference between the two of them are.
Yeah, so if you guys have any questions from this slide, go ahead and start putting them in Q&A. And then we can kind of start to look to those. We'll kind of move to the next slide, but please throw your questions in Q&A and we'll kind of roll back.
So moving forward, something we wanted to really highlight with any kind of social media or just advertising or marketing in general is it's important to have a funnel in place. And so essentially what you're doing with the funnel is kind of, what it's geared towards is you're bringing people into the top of the funnel. And by the end of that, you're kind of spitting out customers and hopefully lifelong customers and referral clients and everything else that goes along with that. So it's more of a actual process. You got to plan it out a little bit. You got to think about it, compared to a boost where you're just getting it out to as many people and hoping someone bites on it. The funnel is taking those people, filtering them down each step to where you're getting more and more of a interested client or somebody that's ready to buy or in that phase. For anybody that attended our last webinars, this is a good example with the pyramid that we showed with the top 10%. They say, 10 to 3% of the top of that pyramid is ready to buy. And this is a way to filter down, keep the people engaged and get that 3% to the bottom of the funnel. So to kind of walk through this a little bit, just to give you an idea of what each step is, the very top, you have brand awareness. So that's where you're bringing in really, as many people as possible to an extent. So you're kind of filling that funnel up with all these people and getting them to know who you are, what you do, what the brand is, and getting that out there. So think of this as your organic social content that we talked about last time. This is why it's important to have that in place, because the more people you draw in, they're going to see that and they're going to know about you and your company and everything else. But also it gives you that reputation, the validity and everything else once you start doing ads. If you run ads and you don't have your social squared away, that's going to be a red flag for certain people, because they see an ad, they're going to jump to your social media. And if there's nothing there, it's going to scare some people away, a good amount of people away. So make sure you have that in place, not only to fill the funnel, but also just to make sure you're not losing anything from these steps as you go. And so the organic social content we talked about, website content can also be part of that, newsletter, anything along those lines where it's appealing to a wider number of people and trying to bring them into your network more or less. And then as you move down, you're going to the interest phase. So in the bright blue there, when you're talking interest, we talked about this earlier, and we put the wording in there. So interest equals adding value. So it's a good way to look at that. It's something that you're providing. So you're qualifying your potential clients as you go, but you're adding some kind of value for them too, so they know what they're getting out of it. So in this example, it could be lead magnets. So if you don't know what that is, your home valuations, buyer's guides, something to where they're walking away with something in hand that they wanted, something they got value out of. And so that way you're also qualifying those clients. So that way, kind of what point in the buying phase they are. And, naturally with a funnel, as you go down these steps, you're going to have fewer and fewer people because you're qualifying as you go. So that's something that's by design, but you're going to have more qualified people and more, your target audience as you get down this funnel. And going to the next step there, the conversion. So that's when you start taking them from interested, possibly potential clients, interested people, to clients that are actually at that conversion phase, to where you're targeting, you're giving them what they're looking for as far as property landing pages, or getting something in front of them that is for a seller as well. So those type of things, that's when you're bringing them down that funnel. You're getting them to that point to where not only are they interested, they're ready to pull the trigger and move forward with some kind of transaction. So you want to present them with the stuff that's most relevant to them at that point. And then the final step is loyalty. So that's something, everybody wants. You want those referrals, you want those lifelong customers, to where they're, moving again in a couple of years. You want them to come back to you. You want them to refer their cousin and their neighbor and everything else whenever they get to that buying phase. So a good way to do that for the loyalty is just to keep them involved with your brand. And we talked about this a little bit last time, but keep them involved with your brand with a newsletter, again, organic content, getting it out there to them. So they have some kind of value, something that will attach to your brand, and they'll follow you. And then that way, once they get to that phase again, or there's a reminder from a friend moving, it triggers your name, your brand, and they'll refer them to you.
Yeah, we had a question from Bob, and it's a good question. He was talking about a business page versus personal page and what you need to do with Ad Manager. And Bob, all of this needs to be done from a business page. So you can't do any of this from a personal page, and your business with real estate always needs to be done from a business page and then shared to your personal page. Please let me know if that does answer your question. Just throw a thumbs up in chat. I think you just did. So great. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So great. So yeah, for everybody, always this has to be done from your business page. Also, I want you guys to think of this marketing funnel. For many of you guys that have been in the business for a while, this is your farming that you've done for years out, with campaigns, postcards, but you're just now doing it digitally and reaching so many more people for a lot less dollars. So you just got to kind of think and take, a lot of that you've done, just listed, just sold cards, recipe cards, any kind of thing, newsletters that you've mailed out, or end of year letters or beginning of year letters, all of those types of things. You're just taking that thought process and you're moving it to a digital campaign. And again, being able to reach more people, taking all of your buyers, your SOI, and just moving that on to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever social media. We're specifically talking about Facebook because, again, that's the #1 site you should start with, because that's where the majority of your listing potentials are. So again, we always talk about, don't overwhelm yourself with too many social media sites. Start with one and do one really well before you move on. But take this funnel as like, hey, this is what I used to do, or still potentially do, and put this with your print material and combine it together for real power. So I hope that helps make kind of sense with that. And that brand awareness at the top, guys, that's what you consistently post out there just organically, that doesn't cost you any money, on a consistent basis on your Facebook business page. And then we move into kind of the dollars and cents of Facebook ads. So, it's very important to realize that a lot of what you do, guys, you don't spend any money on social media to build up, like what Steve said earlier, just that what people are going to search you, look it up. They want to make sure they can trust. They want to like you, right? People buy from people they like and trust, and they're going to get that validation from what they see on your social media.
So. Yeah.
Great. So now that we have, this is really our social strategy. So if you say I don't have a strategy, then you have the strategy. You really do. It's like throwing spaghetti at a wall. You've had a strategy for years, not on social media. Just take that, your just listed, just sold, your newsletters, and encompass those into social media. So we do have a strategy. It looks like this. It's everything that you've always done. It's just done digitally. Now, Steve, what do we do with that strategy? How do we implement that? Going to the next.
Yep. So one question that we got, quite a bit of, and I get this question a lot in general, is just retargeting. It's a phrase that's used out there, and not everybody knows what it is or how it works exactly. So just to give you an idea with this chart, starting in the orange section there, this is how retargeting works in a nutshell. Somebody visits your website or your social media, and when they leave your site, they move to that next section, they're actually tracked. So there's a cookie kind of added to their device there, and they're tracked after they leave your website. And what that allows you to do then with retargeting is you can essentially, the next two sections there, you can hit them with an ad by determining who you want to serve that ad to. You can hit them with an ad the next time they go on Facebook or Instagram. And so it's not just Facebook or Instagram, but for our purpose of our conversations, that's what we're talking about right now. So when they pull up Facebook, that's when you can pop up in their newsfeed with a paid ad, or you can pop up in the middle of their video with a paid ad. So if you've identified them as somebody you want to progress down that funnel, you can do that through retargeting by getting the right person, the right ad at the right time. So very simply put, that's the basic behind retargeting.
I want to give just a real quick analogy because I think we can use it carrying forward. And if those of you that have it, just ignore this analogy, but starting with the orange, this is like a shark that is out swimming in the ocean, okay? And there's researchers out there. You guys are the researchers. You want to tag the sharks. We go down to the light blue. That's where the shark gets tagged, okay? So now we've tagged a shark. The shark goes. So we don't keep the shark. We release a shark back into the ocean. The shark can go to the coral reef. The shark can go to the open water. He can go to the bay, to the deep sea. That is your client out there on different avenues: the coral reef, the bay, the deep sea, the open water. So that helped me tie it together as we are talking through it. So we'll revisit that, but think of this as you're tagging sharks as they come to your sites.
And we did get a question from Melissa, which was a good question. She asked, does this require Facebook Pixel on our website? So yes and no. To be effective, yes, I would say you'll want to install the Pixel on your website. And so what the Pixel is essentially a line of code that goes onto your website. And what it does is that's what allows people to be tracked when they perform a certain action on your website. So by putting that code out there, when Todd visits your website and clicks on a certain button, you can attach that as a trigger to where now you're tracking him and you want to present the ad to him, for that next step. So Pixel is definitely something I would recommend getting on your website if at all possible. The no part of that question is there are avenues that you can do without having the Pixel, and we'll kind of talk about that next with the custom audiences. So with the custom audiences, and we'll hopefully address this a little bit more for you, Melissa, with this section too. So when you create a custom audience, and essentially what that is with the custom audience is what Todd was talking about with the research and the sharks. So if you want to know, what sharks were in this bay, then you need to create a custom audience to pull that data out and target those sharks at that point. So when you visit Ad Manager, and if you're not familiar with a part of this section, or if you're confused by any part of it, feel free to ask your questions now, or we can do more one-on-one too, because we know this is a brief overview and this is a lot of information. So don't be afraid to throw that out there, but we'd love to get you what you're looking for too. So, but in a nutshell, when you go to Ad Manager, then you're going to select audience, create an audience, and then you're going to choose a source at that point. And so, not to overwhelm you, but these two sections to the right are the different sources that are available. The left column is all from Facebook, so this would not require the Pixel. The right side is user generated, except for the website section. That would be where the Pixel comes into play. So again, when we say sources, all we're saying is that this is what you want to target with the ad display. So if somebody comes to, and we'll talk more about this with a couple of these sections, but the most common ones are video, Facebook page interaction, or website. So those are the ones we'll talk about a little bit more. But if you wanted to, say you have a nice video out there of the home buying process, and you wanted to show ads for listings to anybody that watched that video, when you show them that, you're going to want to narrow that down a little bit more, because if they scrolled through and they saw, a couple seconds of that video, that's not who you're really targeting. You're wanting the people that were vested in that showed an interest. And so when we say source, this allows you to pick that apart and say, I only want to show this to people that saw 50% or more of this video. So that's just one example of that section. And I know we talked a lot about this earlier. Shannon, do you have anything to add? Todd, do you have anything to add before we kind of jump into it?
Bob just had a question, so I think we should just answer that question, and then I might add. So yeah. He asked if the pixel has to be different. If you want to look at his question, I think it's a great question that other people might have.
So in 95% of cases, you'll only have one pixel. Really, the only time that you'd probably install more than one pixel is if you were working with another company and they were doing stuff for you as well, because then it could separate that data. But to answer your question, Bob, you wouldn't have a different pixel for each ad. It would be one pixel for your account, and that would feed all this data in, and then you could use that to generate for all ads.
Yeah. So Bob, one pixel has a ton of variables. So it's not as though if visitor sees pixel 1, do this. If visitor sees pixel number 2, do this. It's if visitor sees a pixel and then there's all these variables. They watched a video for 15 seconds. They visited my contact page. They triggered an event. The pixel, it's smart. It has all of that together. So you only need one.
Yeah, we get into some language here, guys, that sometimes goes over my head, but it just all works. So once you do it all, it just kind of works. And that's the goal. And even creating audiences can get complicated, guys. A lot of this, like, we can help you set up, we can help work through you. This needs to be kind of one-on-one, because also Facebook has a million different, like, they're changing their setups all the time. We love Facebook, and they like to change things. So your screens can look different than my screen. That's why we're not sharing Facebook screen right here, because ours could look different than yours, and you could be like, I don't see that on my screen. But the setup is, number one, you need to go to your ad manager, and in the ad you would select your audience, and then you would see these icons like this. And on the left side, those are all Facebook sources. The right side is either your website or a list that you could put in. So imagine your customer list could be an Excel spreadsheet of your SOI. You could put all of them in and target them. So this allows you guys, imagine, like, Facebook took, like, your targeting away, right? You can't change your age and all that stuff, which is good because you need to follow all of those rules. But this can allow you to then target back to your audiences that is acceptable, and to serve it up. And really what I love about retargeting, guys, this is your money funnel. Meaning this is really how you guys can drive activity out of Facebook ads and get action faster, because we know as salespeople, we are very impatient, and that's okay. I'm very impatient, and I want to see action. If I'm going to spend money, I want to see some action. And this is like farming, so it does take time. So retargeting is actually a way to get some action to happen and get some leads back. So it is great if we can really work and help you guys get a plan set up to do some of this really well, because that's when you guys will actually see some leads come out of the funnel and to help you feel good about what you're doing.
Awesome. So Steve, so we have sharks out there, and we want to target sharks that have gone to the coral reef. Okay. So now we want to see all sharks that went to the coral reef. So this is, let's say, for example, a video. So what do we do with that? So now we know what sharks are in the coral reef. How do we continue to narrow the funnel?
And I wanted to kind of explain that a little bit. So going back a slide, actually, this is your custom audience is how you reach between that green and the purplish blue phase. The custom audience is what pulls out that section of audience that you want to show that ad. So just to explain that fully, so you know if they've done a certain action or if they've watched a certain percentage of video or something like that, that's how you determine who sees that ad. So to go into a couple of those more popular categories, like for example, this is a screenshot of the video custom audience. So you can select the videos that you want to include And so if you have a series of videos, or if you just have one really good video that you wanted to focus on. So if you wanted to pull out the people that watched, 50% of that video or more, you could do that in this section. And so you can see it gives you several different intervals. At least 3 seconds of your video is probably not as effective as going deeper, because as people scroll, they're bound to watch maybe a few seconds as they go. But this will let me say, like, hey, I had that really great video about, the home buying process, and I want to show anybody that watched half of that video or more the next step. So I want to show them this new property, or, a testimonial, or whatever you're moving them onto at that point. This is how you do that. So you can kind of supplement and get those people out of that audience and show them those next ads.
So Steve, I just want to make sure I understand you correctly. So you're telling me I can be very specific with where I spend my money based on an action here. So if I don't want to spend money on someone who simply scrolled past my ad very quickly, you're saying I don't have to with this box?
Exactly. So this just gives you the kind of the controls to set that up, so you can really customize it to whatever you're comfortable with. You probably eliminate the 3 seconds or the 10 seconds, and you might want to go a little bit more in depth. But you want somebody that really spent some time to look at your video, and if they looked at your video, it kind of tells you that they had some level of interest. So again, going back to that funnel, you can move them from interest down to conversion, and start moving them through that funnel. So this is a way to do that. Essentially, you're just kind of identifying those people that are at that phase, and you're showing them the next ad in that series.
Great.
So if I have like a first-time home buyer series of videos, like 3 or 4 videos, the great idea is to start with that first ad, and then everybody that watched 75% of that video, I can serve up that next ad, right? And then take those people that watch 75% of that video, serve them up the next ad, right? And then that's my goal, is to narrow down that funnel and then get 2 to 3 leads from that series of videos.
Yeah.
That would be an example of a campaign.
Yep. So it gives you control to kind of take those steps, whatever makes, the most logical sense for you and what you're wanting to do. That's a perfect example. You can kind of bridge them from one video to the next. Not only are you showing it to the right people, but you're getting those people to re-engage with that. So, they don't have to go and find video number 2. You can kind of present it to them in an ad in their newsfeed. And it's hopefully something they'll bite on, and they'll watch your second video, third video, and move on from there.
Great. We have 2 great questions, one from Pam and then one from Bob. So if we can go to those really quickly.
Yeah. So it looks like question from Pam was, does Facebook do well with retargeting with email addresses? Because there were some concerns there that they said they did mobile phone numbers, but there wasn't a lot of good results there. So, I've seen success with that. I think the more information you can give them, the better. And something we'll talk about in a little bit too is also a lookalike audience. So you can kind of do both of those combined. But the more information you can give Facebook, essentially what you do is, there's a template on their website or on your account that you can download. You can fill in as much information on each of those people that you can, and you can upload that. Facebook hashes that information so that there's no privacy concerns or anything like that. But they take that and they put it into their system, and then they display ads to those people the best they can. Kind of going ahead a little bit, there's something called lookalike audiences we'll talk about here in a second. That's a good tool for maybe what you're talking about too, Pam, where you can do upload the information to show that to the clients, but it can also identify people that are very similar to those clients or those people. So it's showing it to the same, the people with the same interests, the same likelihood to respond, different things like that. So hopefully
Steve,
that answers your question. I wouldn't have concern with email addresses, but you could also expand on that with what we'll talk about here in a few.
And Steve, where's that template located? Is that within the ad manager?
It is. So if you go in, for example, on the right side here where it says customer list, as soon as you click that, it gives you a download for that template.
Perfect.
So
perfect.
They make it easy to find.
Great. All right, Pam, let us know if that helps answer your question. And then Bob has a question about another question about Pixel. Great, Pam, that's awesome.
Yeah, Bob asked do you have to use the pixel to do custom audiences? I'm scrolling down to it here. You don't, Bob. You just won't be able to track the coral reef, if that makes sense. So you by default can track the deep waters and you can track the bay, but if you don't have the pixel, you won't have any tracking of the coral reef.
But again, if you're setting up the pixel to your website, like to your account, right? Like, I think we have to kind of separate it like from each ad to just setting up the pixel to your Facebook business page, right? Like, Steve, can you help with that? Because even sometimes I get confused on that. See, I'm not perfect with Facebook.
I think the correlation Todd made is good because you're able to capture the data that's not dependent on Facebook. So,
right.
Or not dependent on the pixel, I should say, sorry. So you could still encompass and you could still create custom audiences that would use any of the data that's pulled directly from Facebook. That would be fine, or any data you wanted to upload. Mm-hmm. But if you're wanting to do anything with your website, so if you want to target somebody that spent time on your website or certain pages of your website, you're going to want the pixel set up for that, for the custom audience. And on the flip side, if you're wanting to go in and you're wanting to present something from your website, you're going to want to have the pixel set up for that too, just for data purposes. But you know, I think it's the best idea is to get that set up. And the big thing is, you know, I would just try to set it up as much as possible. You're better to have it than not to have it. Then you don't have to worry about what's included and what's not.
Mm-hmm. So Chris asked a good question, and I'm sorry that this was confusing. So he asked, what's the coral reef? So that's when we're actually allowed to travel outside of the country when this is all lifted, and we get those little drinks with the umbrellas in them. Sorry. The coral reef is, in this specific example, your personal website. If you don't have the pixel on your personal website, then we can't say if someone goes to my website and clicks on this page, then to retarget them or to make them a custom audience. So that's what the coral reef is it just allows us, if we don't have the pixel on, then we can't track that zone.
So essentially, you're losing out on this section right here. So if you don't have the pixel set up on your website, you're not going to be able to use any of the data that's in this section. You're not going to be able to target based on that. You're not going to be able to pull data from that either. So that's what you're eliminating with the pixel. And there are some other areas that it would affect in some ways, but for the majority, that's what you're going to lose. So the website section is the coral reef in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. And Bob has a great question. I'm sure many do, and we briefly talked about it, but how would an agent go about setting up the pixel on their website? I know many agents have websites that are set up by their companies and so forth. So how does an agent do that?
So there's a couple different ways you can do that. The biggest way that's always been around is the code that you would add to the header of your website. So first you have to go to Facebook, and they have the code all kind of nice and neat there for you to where you can just copy and paste. Definitely that's a little bit more involved, so I'd love to answer exactly where to find that more one-on-one if anybody has questions. But once you have that, then you can put that on your website in the header section. So if you're not familiar, if you don't do anything with the website maintenance or anything along those lines, you know, get a hold of who does for you, and they could probably do that without any hesitation. It's very quick to do. It's just copy and paste. But there are some other options that you can go in, and you can actually type in the URL, excuse me, and kind of mirror the site, and you can trigger some actions that way too. And it is a little bit more involved. So that's, again, one of those things. If you still have questions after this on the pixel or anything else, you know, feel free to reach out to us, because that's probably one we'd want to answer a little bit more one-on-one basis to see what you have set up now and how to get started for you.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. So again, custom audiences might seem a little complicated as we're going over it, but if you get into the ad manager and kind of look and start to play around and add some things and do some things, and we can walk you through. It gets less complicated. But as a big 50,000 view, you know, as we're kind of giving it to you right now, there's multiple ways to create custom audiences, which is actually a really nice benefit in Facebook ads. And again, where you guys can really start to drive down what you want out of Facebook and Facebook spending dollars, and that is getting leads.
Mm-hmm.
And just to highlight these sections too. So we talked about video and custom audiences. You know, the other two sections that are kind of common are like Facebook page, as well as, the website. So wanted to go through these with you just to kind of give you a rundown, but those custom audiences, again, by setting up a custom audience, you can pick out, so say you had 1,000 people go to your Facebook page last month. You can say, I want to show this ad to the 500 of those people that engaged with some post on my page. And so that's the way the custom audience works. Same thing with video. You know, if you had 1,000 people that watched a video, only half of them watched 25% of that. You could say, I want to show it to this 500 people that watched 25% of this, because there's more value. You're going to get more return on your buck for doing that to a more targeted customer. So same thing with the Facebook page. You can interact, you know, people that visited your page, people that did some kind of call to action, different things along those lines. I would say the most common is probably someone who engaged with a post or ad in some way, just because, you know, the people that visited your page, they could have done it by accident. They could have just clicked and got right back out. You want to narrow it down a little bit more, just like the video and the 3-second rule that we were talking about. And then with the website, to use that same scenario, you know, if you had 1,000 website visitors last month, you could narrow that audience down and say, I want to show an ad to the people that visited this specific web page from my website. So if you have a lead magnet, like a home, you know, a home valuation or something along those lines, you could say, I want to show this ad on the buying or the selling process to those people that clicked on that link, for example. It's a good way to pick up some of those people that, you know, obviously if they filled out the form, you would have got their information and all that, but you have a subset there that starts to fill it out, gets nervous, backs out, gets busy, forgets about it, whatever it is. So they were interested, but they didn't finish that process. This can pick those people out for you, so you can get the right ad to them and hopefully get them back on board with you too.
Pam has an interesting question. I have not heard this. She said, hasn't Facebook also came back with their algorithms that, and I'm thinking this is $130. Pam, let me know if that's correct, for ad spend to get the best result. So that's in chat. Yes, $130 ad spend. I have not heard that, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I personally have not heard anything there either with that. You know, one thing just that is a theory to live by is test, don't guess. So one awesome thing to do there with Pam is that I would put 130 in an A column and I'd put 30 in a B column, and I would test it with the same demographics, the same copy, the same everything, and you'll really get to the bottom of that. I know it's ever changing as well. That they're ever changing, but I have not heard of anything with any specific dollar amount. You may see better results, and you can create both of those campaigns and then see which one performs better.
And yeah, I haven't heard that either, just to kind of to follow suit with that. You know, one thing that news could have came from, you know, if you've ever been contacted by a Facebook marketing specialist, they have people reach out as like an account representative, and they'll throw out different deals and different things. And it almost sounds like maybe that's what that originated from. It wouldn't have anything to do with the algorithm, but they usually tell you, you know, for this campaign, if you spend this much, you'll get better results, or you'll know more about how this is working. It almost makes me feel like maybe that's what happened and through communication or something, but we can maybe talk about that with you, Pam, in more detail to get a better idea.
Yeah, Jill said she said we are seeing great results with $15 to $30 over 7 to 10 days. Is that total, Jill, or are you can't imagine you're doing 15 a day. I would think that's a total spend. of $15 to $30 of the total spend, $15 to $30. So per campaign. Yeah. So if you feel like, Pam, you've seen the smaller dollar amounts go away, it might just be how you're putting it in there. So we'd probably love to just get on the phone with you, Pam, and help you out. So that would be what we can do. So.
Okay, so putting it all together, Steve, what do we do with this custom audience now? Do we want to get to the example? Because I know we're getting towards that. We've had a lot of fantastic audiences, or a lot of fantastic questions from the audience. But what do we do with this now? We've narrowed it down. We know about who we're targeting. We've qualified them. They've watched a video. They've visited this website. They've seen 50% of a video. How do we put this to get more leads in our inbox, to sell more homes?
So we threw together an example here, just because actually that question from Pam is perfect, because we've heard that where, you have to spend a certain amount or they feel like they're not getting results. What Shannon said, keep that in mind. It's not an instant thing. If you start a campaign, you might not have, a bite going down that funnel right away. So you want to keep nurturing that, putting more people in the funnel. And this is a good way to do that. It's just an example. But attracting buyers with a $60 budget. So in this example, it's the same funnel we showed earlier, but a little bit more detail specifically on how you could utilize it. So brand awareness, again, focusing on your organic content. You don't need to do any ad spend. You can, to the right there, it says boost is optional. So if you're going to use boost, this would be really the only time I would say it's more, it's just as effective at that point. So you can boost if you'd like and put some ad spend behind it to where you just click boost, put a dollar amount in, and it shows it to as many people as possible. Because the good news is, in this case, it's bringing more people into that funnel. So more people interacting with your Facebook page, so that way you can get more data to kind of target down on later. But that's completely optional. As you move down, again, going to that interest, you're adding value of some sort. So in this example, to the right, it shows a listing email sign-up campaign. It'd be a good example if you're trying to attract buyers. So you can start to create like a weekly listings email and target it to those people that engage with your Facebook page somehow. So if you had, at 500 people, let's say, visited your Facebook page and they interacted in some way, whether it was liking, commenting, sharing, you could show an ad to those people that say, are you looking for a new home? Sign up for this email list and we'll send you the new listings every week. And so they're already showing some interest in some way. So you're bringing them down that funnel and giving them something of value to where they're going to get that weekly email. And what's nice with that is then you get even more data, because then you get their email addresses, you get whatever data you're requesting there. But then you can use that data on the third step there for conversion, and you can retarget. So you can create a retargeting listing campaign. So anybody that signs up for that email list, you can display them ads through retargeting with the custom audiences we talked about before. You can display them ads for your listings, your property pages, your lead capture pages, your anything to do with those listings that you have that's of value out there. So you can start showing them to those people because they've already shown a couple steps of interest in what you're offering. So now you just need to get them what they're looking for, and then you'll get higher conversions at that point. And then finally, at the tail end of that is loyalty. So again, it's a lot of it's your organic content out there, whether it be to social media, newsletter, website, whatever that is. But at least social media, get that out there, get some very valuable content that they enjoy seeing and get some kind of value out of. They'll hang around even after they've been a customer. So if they bought a house 2 years ago, if you can have them follow your page for another 2 years, however long their magic number is, they're going to be looking for your service again, either to sell that house, buy a new house, their cousin's looking to move to the area, they need a house. You're going to be the first person they think of again, so you're not missing out on that repeat business. And you could do some boost with that as well. So you could boost some posts. Again, that's kind of the same category for brand awareness and loyalty. It's just your organic social media content. So you can boost if you want to, but don't feel like you have to. And it looks like we got a question here. Brand awareness, organic content, focus on real estate. So it's actually a good question. We talked a little bit about this in our last webinars, and I think I'm answering your question here, Bob, but correct me if I'm wrong. Brand awareness doesn't always have to focus on real estate. You're just getting them to basically, as of now, they have no idea who you are or what you do, to a point where, hey, that's Steve, the realtor that sells and buys homes, or, you know, helps people sell and buy homes. So if you can cross that threshold, it doesn't matter what content you put out there. If you can get them involved in some way and they know who you are now, you've won. You've done brand awareness. So that's kind of something to think about. You know, people interact with content out there that they'll share and different things like that. So don't feel trapped in the real estate realm for that.
Steve, if I need some help with this organic content, we created a tool. So I'm just having a hard time. I got a mental block with what I should do today for my organic content. How can we help everyone out?
So we actually have a content calendar that gives you a full month worth of posting ideas. And it's not telling you, you know, it's giving you some brainstorming ideas. So it gives you some holiday suggestions, some different things you can post throughout the week. You don't have to post 30 posts a month to start off with, but at least starting some consistency out there. So we can actually, if anybody's interested and they want to let us know, you know, in the chat, we can actually get that sent out to them at no cost. It's just a content calendar for May that we put together, and we'll have June's coming out here soon as well. You know,
yeah,
and
so
of course,
if you're stuck with ideas, sorry, Steve, if you're stuck with ideas, we create this free publication. Steve puts something almost every day of the week. You don't have to do every day of the week. Pick 4 or 5 on there to get started. You have to start somewhere. Pick some of these days on here. They give you good ideas. Taco Tuesday is National Donut Day. We have all kinds of ideas on there. Pick just a couple and get started somewhere, and continue to always be diligent about creating your organic content.
Great, and I'm getting those now. We also had a statement. I think this is actually interesting, and I always start with a minimum of 4 days, so I think this is great. Jonathan Harp said, I was told that the campaign should run for a minimum of 4 days to work through the Facebook algorithm. And I don't know, I just always start people when I help people and do a minimum of 4 days. So Steve, if you can speak to that, I don't know if that's true to the algorithm, but
it's a good rule, because anytime that you start a new campaign, there's a learning phase, a learning element to it. So the algorithm's kind of got to kick into gear. And when you choose an objective, Facebook's going to try to present it to the people at the top before you get into, you know, targeting. But when you pick an objective, like say brand awareness, they're going to try to show it to the people that are most likely to interact with that post. And so their algorithm kind of learns on the back end for a few days. So you do want to give it some time to get up and running. I've heard different days there. I think 4 days is definitely good. You're covered without a doubt. So actually, when you go into Ad Manager, it'll tell you if it's still in the learning phase if you look at your set campaign. But I think generally you probably want to give it, you know, 4 days is a good rule to make sure it's up and running. And then that gives you enough data to where if it's not working, if it's not doing what you want it to do, and you need to make an adjustment, that's when you can start doing that A/B testing and change just a few things or one thing to see if it starts developing better, and just keep improving that as you go.
Great question. Great comment.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments, any other information to share? I know we have our account managers on the call. Do you guys have anything else you want to add? We're always out helping agents with Facebook stuff. I know Jill Ferguson, you have a lot of information on doing ads. Do you have anything else you want to add? I think the toughest thing sometimes is just coming up with the campaigns. I know Jill and I talked about this a lot, and doing content video to push to the ad campaigns is important. And I think a good blend of professional and organic content for those. Yeah, Jill, definitely define your strategy. And I think we could do a whole nother webinar in just defining your strategy. You know, and you got to have those content videos to kind of back that up. You know, your ads don't always have to be video. They could be the carousels with photos, things like that. But video just does the best in ads. And they don't always have to be long. They can be short to long. And really, if you're retargeting, I would think it's probably best to go shorter to longer as you're kind of reeling people in. Think about it as fishing, you know, like with the sharks. How do you reel in a big shark? It takes time. I really love the shark analogy because we could just go forever with that. So let's see here. We got some stuff. Let's see. Jill says, definitely define your strategy. Think through videos, subjects, which one to retarget and to whom. Chris, I would just say that if there's anyone who would like one-on-one help with their ads, have them let us know. With Zoom, we can still help walk them through the ad placement. Yep, we're available to do that. We're here to help, guys. You know, we help with this content. Many of you are our clients. We want to help you use these videos and get the most out of them and get repeat business and do more listings. That's our whole goal to help you with. We want to help you win more listings. We know video will help you do that. That's why we've been doing video for 16 years. So that is our goal, to help you with that. So however we can help you win with Facebook, the cost per click for you guys, it's amazing how much you can advertise with Facebook and do this. So we're here to help, and we want to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we zoomed through an hour really quick, but
Yeah.
This is just a brief overview too. So I know some questions might be left out there, or some specifics. You know, you could dig into this, and especially once you get to the custom audiences, I know that's a confusing area. Just retargeting in general there's a lot there. So, you know, if there's anything that we could do as far as, you know, like Chris said, with the market managers, any one-on-one meetings, or if there's any topics that you would like us to dig deeper into, let us know. Some of it is better one-on-one. So, you know, if that's the case, we'll let you know and we'll get that arranged. But these webinars, you know, have been really well received, and hopefully you're getting a lot of value out of them. And we want to make sure we keep providing that for you.
Yeah. So just next steps, guys, we're going to email you out the video of the webinar, a link to the content calendar for you to sign up for it if you want it. Thank you, Reggie. And then we're also going to send you the PDF of this Attracting Buyers with a $60 budget. Zoom wouldn't let us upload a PDF. So we're going to send you all of that. I'm also going to send you a Survey Monkey. If you don't mind filling that out, it helps us get better on these webinars. And we'll also have a place to put, like, maybe what the next webinar is that you want. So if you just take it, it'll be 9 questions. It'll take you a minute and a half. So thank you, Sue, thank you, Scott, thank you so much. I'll leave it to Todd and Steve to take us out, but thank you so much.
Yeah, just we're here for you guys. We appreciate all of you, and we support you during these times and all the time. So we just want to continue to do this. We see ourselves as your partner. So push us, you know, and we want to get better all along with you. We want to continue to give and bring value. This is becoming a little bit of a science. Facebook is definitely becoming more of a programming science, and we are here for you. We've got an amazing team, an amazing account manager team that was on the call with us today behind the scenes, but we're here for you. We'd love to do it with you. So
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see you all. Be safe out there and have a fabulous rest of your Thursday.
Thank you, everyone.
See y'all.
Thanks, guys.